Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining today our educational webinar series by Foundation Software titled Get Your Mobile Time Tracking Optimized with WorkMax. My name is Spencer Pope, and I am a regional sales manager for WorkMax. If you need to reach out to me after this meeting for whatever reason to ask any additional questions that may not have come up during this meeting, feel free to reach out via my phone number or to reach out to me on my email, spencer.pope@workmax.com. As we go throughout this webinar, you may have questions that come up. If you have questions, please type those questions in your questions or chat box. And as you do so, we will compile those questions. My colleague, Tanner Carver, who's also on this meeting, will compile those questions, and then we'll make sure we answer the most common questions that were asked at the end of this webinar. So now we'll jump straight in. WorkMax is a platform for capturing your data from the field and covers a number of different areas of capturing data. But the main focus of this webinar is going to be time tracking and capturing time from the field for your employees. So that will be covered as we review WorkMax Time. We'll also go over WorkMax Forms, where you can capture any additional data that you need to capture from the field with the WorkMax Forms, whether that's safety or inspections or daily reports, so on and so forth. We'll also go over WorkMax Assets, where we can do WorkMax Assets and Equipment. And then we'll briefly touch on WorkMax Insight, where we can look at progress and productivity. So first, WorkMax Time. I'm going to give you a high-level overview of this now, and then we'll go in and actually show you the mobile app and how we capture that data in the field. And then we'll touch briefly also on how that data goes back into the website, where you'll be able to review that time later in the office. So in WorkMax, there are several different ways which you can capture time, but the most recommended and the one that follows best practice is real-time time tracking, where you're having your employees clock in and out and selecting the appropriate jobs and tasks or cost codes. As part of that process, to verify and make sure that your data is accurate coming in from the field, WorkMax has advanced facial recognition, which uses biometrics to compare the employee profile photo to that employee's photo as they're clocking in, to make sure that the right person is clocking in on that job. We also have GPS and geofencing. So we're going to take a GPS location stamp as that employee is clocking in and clocking out or switching between jobs and tasks. And we're going to make sure that GPS location is within the geofence. If not, we're going to notify you by flagging that record that this employee, when they clocked in or out, were not within the assigned geofence for that job. We'll help you easily be able to better cost code to the specific different cost codes that you want to track on each job. And then we do have our control center where this data will go, where you can view it, you can adjust it as necessary. We have up to 4 levels of approval in that control center, so you can approve that time before you're ready to send that either over to your payroll system or your accounting system, or both. So that's quickly WorkMax Time. In WorkMax Forms, we have the ability so you can create any custom forms. So if you today have forms that you've created on paper or anywhere else, we can recreate those forms inside of WorkMax. We have an entire custom forms builder. So not only we at WorkMax can create those forms, but you can create those forms yourself and even customize those forms that already exist. I don't think I put it on my list here, but we have a WorkMax forms library, which already includes things like safety forms, JSAs, change orders, inspections. We have over 50 toolbox talks that will all be made available to you as you sign up for WorkMax Forms. A really neat feature, which I feel is game changing for a lot of organizations we work with, is also the ability to attach these forms to a clock in and a clock out as you're capturing time for your employees in the field. It is incredibly common for our WorkMax customers to want to have all the employees that are clocking into the system to be asked questions when they clock out at the end of the day. Common questions are like, did you receive all your required breaks for the day? Were you injured on the job today? And the real power starts there with WorkMax, and I'll be able to show you this as we show you the mobile app here right after I go over this overview. But you can then, if they say yes, they were injured, we'll be able to launch additional questions and launch a full injury report. And again, I'll show that here shortly. We can review, we can have safety and compliance forms. Daily logs are very common at the end of the day, where that foreman or supervisor is now taking photos of things that were done on the job site, reporting weather, seeing if there were any challenges that they need to document or delays. And then when each of these forms are completed, we have the ability in WorkMax to automatically send email notifications when those forms are done. So if you get an injury report that comes in, that can automatically be emailed to HR or operations or both to let them know somebody's reporting an injury. And that capability is with all of the forms that we have in WorkMax. WorkMax Assets allows our customers to track equipment, to track tools, to use barcodes, to select equipment or tools, and then assign those equipment or assets to specific jobs or specific employees. So you can know, hey, where's my stuff? You know that John's got it and it's on job 1. We can also help you track usage, whether you're tracking usage for billing or for tax purposes. And we can track that usage. These are after the fact, where they're entering, hey, how much this equipment was used on each day, on each job, and even cost code, as well as linking WorkMax assets with WorkMax forms to do things like inspections or repair requests. And we can do all of that with WorkMax assets. Our WorkMax Insight module helps organizations look at progress and productivity. We're able to, in addition to capturing labor through WorkMax time, we're able to capture production units or what was completed on that job, whether that's linear feet, square feet, cubic yards, or per piece, and then look at estimated versus actual. Because in WorkMax, we have the ability to pull in budgets, whether that's from your accounting system or your estimating system. And then another part of WorkMax is the ability of WorkMax Insight is the ability to build custom reports. So if you need custom reports that you need to be delivered to your inbox once a week, we can build those custom reports inside of WorkMax and even schedule them to be delivered. So let's actually jump right over to my mobile device. WorkMax works on both Apple and Android devices, whether they're cell phones or tablets. This is my cell phone here that I have linked here on my computer, but each employer will receive a either 4 or 5-digit PIN that will allow them to PIN into the system. That does a couple of things. First, it's double verification that they're the correct person, and it also allows them to jump between devices. So if you have WorkMax set up in a kiosk mode where that's mounted on a wall or in a shop, you can have all of the employees that come up to that device pin in on that same device. So here I'm going to have Jorge pin into the system. He's going to select clock in. You'll notice at the top it has his name and his profile photo, but I'm going to hit clock in. He has the ability to select the appropriate job. This one is already selected because it's his default job. Those jobs will only show up that he has the permissions to see. So you can limit what employees see in the field on the jobs. He'll then select the appropriate cost code. You'll see I have roughly 10 options here, even though there are hundreds of cost codes in my system. But these are only the cost codes that show up on that specific job in my accounting system. You'll notice in the upper left corner, I am taking a photo for advanced facial recognition. And I do at the bottom have the ability to add a note if I need to add any notes. As soon as I hit confirm, it's also going to take a GPS location stamp to verify that that employee is within the geofence that was set up for that job. If this employee, Jorge, needs to clock in to switch jobs and tasks, that process is very similar. Again, I'll put in a 4-digit code. You'll see that he's already clocked into one job and cost code here, the Hilton Garden Inn and to the Mo Trim. And he's going to clock in again. If he's working on the same job, he can just select a different cost code. Or if he needed to switch that job, I could have switched the job as well. And then I'll hit confirm to complete that adjustment of now I'm working on a new task or in a new job. Then I'll come to the end of the day where I need to complete my clock out. He'll put in his 4-digit PIN. I'll select clock out. And you'll see here, I have attached a clock out form. This uses WorkMax time and forms. And I'll be able to clock out and then answer any required questions. In this case, did you take all of your required breaks today? Were you injured on the job today? So you can see how this works. I'm going to say, yes, I was injured on the job, and then I'll sign off. As soon as I hit save, you'll see that it also now requires additional information. I have to fill out a full injury report form. I can do that, and it requires me to do things like take photos. I can take as many photos as I need to, answer multiple choice questions, put in a description. I can even use talk to text to do this as well. Most guys in the field don't want to type on their little cell phones. Ask yes or no questions, and even capture one or multiple levels of signature if I need sign off from a manager. I'll save that and complete my clock out. And as soon as I do that, that injury report form that I just completed will automatically be emailed to the appropriate people who need that notification, whether that's HR or operations or both. They'll get that email that says Jorge is reporting that he was injured. So WorkMax has that ability to ask all sorts of questions when you clock out. It's common for foremen in organizations to be required to fill out a daily report at the end of the day, or any additional information that you need. I just got off the phone with somebody who said they needed to track mileage and they needed to report how many miles were driven. You could capture that information easily on clockout with WorkMax. In addition to the ability to attach those forms to clock in and clock out, we do have the ability to pull up any of those forms as we go throughout the day. I might be in the field and have the general or the owner of that job site say, hey, I need you to complete additional work that wasn't on their original scope of work. I'll be able to come in and easily be able to fill out a change order, or I can come in and put that description of work. I can take photos of the work that needs to be done. I can say, hey, the name of the person who's requesting this work is John Smith. And I can even have John sign directly on my cell phone or tablet as part of that process. As he signs that off, I can save that. And then I can come over, and John might want a copy of what he just signed. So I'll select that, and I can send an email copy directly to John immediately. As soon as I send that, I will sync it and send it up into the office. So whoever needs to see that can ultimately review it, make sure it's approved so we can get that work done. And ultimately, maybe even more importantly, make sure we're billing for the work that we're doing out in the field. WorkMax has, again, like I said, an entire WorkMax library full of safety report forms, things that help you JSAs, compliance, inspections, and again, over 50 toolbox talks. So again, if you have any questions about any of the things I'm sharing, please enter those into the chat. or the question area. I won't have time in this webinar to touch much on WorkMax assets, but I do want to show you briefly our productivity dashboard in WorkMax Insight. You'll notice here, this is a high-level overview of how we're doing on the job. You can see in the upper left-hand corner, we're looking at completed hours, how many hours are remaining, and if we're trending ahead or behind schedule. In the lower left-hand corner, you'll see our full productivity table where we've actually already either imported or entered the budget for each of those cost codes on this job. And then because we're using WorkMax time to capture all of our time against the specific jobs and cost codes, we can see how much has been completed. We can also track those production units in WorkMax and see how many units have been completed as we've gone working on this job. And for each of the individual cost codes, we'll have the information on, hey, are we over or ahead of schedule or behind schedule? How are we trending? And we can even look at things like what's our current pace, how many units per hour, and what's the pace needed to complete this on time and in budget. If you'd like to talk more about this, again, please reach out to our team and we'll set up a specific customized demonstration for you and your organization. Okay, so that is at the high level here of WorkMax. We've reviewed WorkMax time, WorkMax forms. We can review WorkMax assets if you'd like to in an additional demonstration. And we've touched briefly on WorkMax Insight. WorkMax also integrates our data with many additional systems. We integrate with foundation software and payroll for construction. We integrate with many accounting systems, whether they're Sage accounting systems, QuickBooks, Acumatica, the Viewpoint products, as well as many of the different payroll systems. If the systems that you use aren't listed here, that's because we can't fit it. There's just not enough space. We integrate with hundreds of ERP, accounting, and payroll systems. And so if you have questions about specific integrations, again, either put that in the chat or set up a time with our team and we'll go into those specific details with you on how the integration works. So again, if you have questions, please type those questions into the chat box or into the questions, and we're happy to take any of those questions now and answer any that you might have. Tanner, I don't know if I can hear you coming through my mic.
Can everybody hear me?
Oh, there you go.
Okay, sorry about that. My name's Tanner Carver. I am just helping Spencer with the questions portion of this, and thank you for all those who submitted questions, and we'll get to that now. If you have any others during this period too, please submit, and then we'll try to get to those. But first question was, in your time application, do you have a Spanish translation?
Oh, great question, and thanks for who submitted that. One of the really neat things about WorkMax is it is already set up to manage both Spanish and English. So let me jump over to my mobile app and I will show you how that works. So here in my mobile app, the cool thing about WorkMax is if you have employees that only speak Spanish and don't speak English, you can set up each specific employee for their language to come up in English or Spanish. So for Jorge, you saw that as I signed in here, he actually speaks English just fine. And so it comes up in English. But as I go back here to a different employee that may not, I'll come into the system and you'll see for Antonio, the system completely comes up in Spanish. So it is bilingual between English and Spanish.
Cool. Thank you. Okay, a couple of different questions, and I'm kind of combining some. How does WorkMax handle union, prevailing wage, and certified wage within the system?
Great question. So WorkMax has, I guess I totally did not share this different part, and we probably should touch on it briefly, but I did mention that WorkMax has our web-based control center where the data all flows after we capture it in the field. So I'm going to jump over to my control center here and refresh my screen. But WorkMax, all of the records that we're capturing on the mobile device will flow back into WorkMax's control center. The control center can be accessed from anywhere where you have access to a modern web browser. So that can be a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, or even a cell phone. So all of those time records will come back here, and we'll be able to see here all of the records as they flow back into WorkMax. In the upper right-hand corner of WorkMax here on our control center, we're actually going to pull up all of those records that we're pulling over from your accounting system. That can be all of the information surrounding the employees, the jobs, the cost codes. If you're pulling over assets and equipment, we'll pull that over as well. But you'll be able to see here those time records that we've already captured today. This one was Sam Johnson, who I actually clocked in as before we jumped on this webinar. And you can see that on the left-hand side that Sam Johnson's facial recognition failed. So one of the neat things about WorkMax is I can passively manage this, and I can see all the things like the facial recognition in WorkMax. And we can see here that failed. These two guys are both bald, but they're not the same person. And then I can come in and look at, GPS as well, where we see that this failed as well. But I apologize, I've gotten a little off track because I wanted to make sure I showed you briefly how the GPS and the facial recognition, how you can see all that information back in the WorkMax Control Center. But question on specifically on prevailing wage, that question will depend on how you're capturing that prevailing wage. And if you have employees that switch between certified classes, you may have an employee that will half of the day clock in and be a laborer, and the other half of the day they might be an operator or a foreman. So if they're switching between certified classes on prevailing wage jobs, we can capture that data with WorkMax on the mobile app and have that sent back. If they work under the same class during the entire time, we can pull that data into WorkMax and also send that over to your accounting system.
Awesome, thank you for that. Maybe time for a couple more questions, but this question is a combo too. What is the implementation time frame, and then after that, how is support, and do they respond quickly?
Oh, fabulous questions. Thank you for asking. So in terms of implementation, the normal implementation time for WorkMax is 2 to 8 weeks, and that's typically more dependent on your organization than ours to make sure that we can get all of those different meetings in that we need to set up the integration, do the administrative training, as well as train the employees in the field. But if you guys are ready to get up and going quickly, we can do that as quickly as 2 weeks. And then the additional question was on support. So we have support that is open from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Mountain Time. And you can reach out to our support either via phone, email, or chat. And our support is very responsive. It is all US based and local, and those that actually speak English. So we're happy to help you with support anytime you need it.
Awesome. Thanks, Spencer. Yeah, I'll just throw in a little support plug too. Our guys, Austin and Matt, our main support guys, they're fantastic. They are very friendly and very willing to help. And come onto our website and put in a support chat or call. They respond very quickly. I guess that's really all the questions that we've had. If anybody wants to sneak in another one real quick, happy to answer those. But one that on the questions or that come through, but one of the questions that maybe we wanted to touch a little bit more on, Spencer, was forms and the templates. What are some of the templates beyond maybe the 52 toolbox talks that we have in forms that we can, and the questionnaires at the end? What are some of the other forms that we have available for them?
Awesome. No, great question. On those forms, really, we have already as part of our mobile library. There are questions surrounding inspections. So if you do inspections on equipment or on job sites, especially surrounding things like JSAs where you're doing safety reporting or you need to do specific reporting for OSHA, we have a lot of that already pre-set up in WorkMax. And one of the neat things about it is even as you hit these specific forms that we've already set up in the WorkMax library, you have the ability to even copy and adjust and change, add questions, take away questions. You can customize those forms very specifically to your environment and so that you're capturing the data you need to. But yeah, change orders are really common. On a clock out, one of the huge ones that a lot of organizations request is the ability to ask if their employees in the field had any expenses that they had that were unsubmitted. Maybe they had to go to Home Depot and purchase some materials, or maybe they just stopped at the local gas station and picked up ice and water for their guys, and they need to submit those expenses. That's an easy question that can be asked on a clock out. Do you have any unsubmitted expenses? And when they say yes, we'll pop up a full expense report form where they can fill out the information, take a picture of the receipt, and have that automatically emailed over to accounting.
Awesome.
So thank you all for jumping on. Thank you, Tanner, for going over the different questions. If you have additional questions, please either send those in to our team or give our team a call and schedule a demonstration. But thank you all for joining this webinar, and we look forward to talking with you all more in the future.
Thank you.